Right now, we're in a very bullish market, I feel, in terms of like industrial property and commercial property around in Windsor. It's arguably as in demand with no supply as housing is in Windsor. So you pair those together, it's almost kind of like people are willing to pay whatever just to get some space.
What are you doing in our local market? What are the moves that you've been making? I know you're big on pivoting back and forth, right? Wherever the deals are, which I love that mentality, right? Like it's just, I don't care even about the market. I don't care about the sub-market as much as I care about the numbers working.
Yeah.
Right. And then you put the two together and you're in a great situation. But
Yeah.
what are you doing locally, if anything?
Well, I guess I'll talk about my last 2 deals that I did. I haven't been that active, and the only things that I'm really active in is the last deal that I did, I bought a house on George. It was a double lot. It's also zoned for what's the duplex zoning?
RD2.
Yeah, it's like RD2 or whatever. It's zoned for a duplex. So the lot is a double lot. The lot already has zoning for a duplex. It's got a single family home on it, and I could easily develop next door. Split the lot if I even wanted to. I could throw an ADU in the back of each one. It's got an alleyway in the back. So that was the last property that I bought, but the property alone does not cash flow. Obviously, I knew going in that they had an extra large lot. Obviously, any agent worth their weight in salt would tell them like, hey, listen, there's some extra intrinsic value here that somebody can come in, build some value on the lot. So obviously I overpaid, so the property doesn't cash flow. If anything, it costs me money, but at some point I'm going to develop that property and make it, make some significant, some significant gains on it.
Yeah, if you get 6 units on there, which
exactly.
you can.
Yeah, exactly. So, did that bylaw pass? Where did it actually go through yet? I think they were talking about the summertime where they weren't going to put any more zoning restrictions and stuff like that to get 3 units on a lot. Did that go through yet?
It's that's Ontario wide.
Oh, it is right now.
Yeah.
I thought that for some reason I thought we were waiting on it to be approved or something like that.
Yeah, I mean maybe the Ontario one, but I know Windsor's already there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I also have that Palisher deal that just ended up getting approved. Where I could put 4 lofts above a commercial building. I bought that one from you.
Yeah.
Did I buy that from you? Yeah, I did buy it from you. So I got that finally approved. That was a fucking disaster. Just the approval process, the permitting process was crazy.
Welcome to Windsor.
Seriously.
Welcome to Ontario. Welcome to Canada.
Crazy. It took me a year and a half to get that shit approved.
Insane.
Yeah. In the downtown core where they want affordable housing. Like
now, what's the main hiccup there? Is it lack of staff? Is it disconnect between all the different layers of bureaucracy? Like, what's the main cause if you had to summarize it?
The disconnect between different levels.
Departments don't talk.
Yeah, the different departments as well as the bureaucracy.
Yeah, and they never will talk.
Yeah, so one of the biggest holdups was the city or the city telling us that we need approval from the province telling us we need approval from the city. Then we had an issue with the environmental, because back in the 50s there was a laundromat that was operational 3 or 4 blocks down the street, and then we couldn't get approval based off of that from either the city or the province. It turns out that wasn't a big deal, but somebody needed to.
If this was a private enterprise that you're dealing with, those answers would have been found out in 2 weeks, max, right?
Yeah.
Back and forth. Okay, boom. Here's your answer. Go ahead, build or don't build, whatever the case is.
Crazy.
But because of the lack of communication,
you're
it's a year and a half just to get an answer.
Yeah,
and then
somebody in I want to say in the permit or the planning, I don't remember exactly. This is going back again a year and a half. I don't remember exactly, but someone misplaced or did something with the file and simply seriously, I'm not even joking, and missed a couple boxes or T's that needed to be crossed or I's that needed to be dotted. Somebody missed something and it just got left by the wayside, and every time we tried contacting them, they just never had an answer for anything. And it got delayed. Classic. And just delayed and just delayed, and it just nobody cared.
And again, if that was the private sector and you said, hey, you know what, I'm taking my business somewhere else because your staff messed up my file and cost me X amount of money, he'd probably be fired or
For
something,
sure,
right?
100%.
In this environment, there are no consequences.
I ended up having to pull some strings with some people that I know in those departments to find like where the fuck are these breadcrumbs? Like I need you to find the breadcrumbs and lead me to the problem.
And it still took
a year and a half. Yeah, it still took a year and a half. But those guys helped me. Like so,
I'm sure.
So these contacts helped me. But anyways, so there's that. That was like I said, a year and a half ago. The last property, like I was mentioning, was at George with the value add on the extra lot. The second last deal that I did was a golf course. That was almost kind of. I know people are. I know a lot of people think like, what the fuck are you doing buying a golf course, right?
Myself included.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, it was a very simple decision. And I'm going to tell you why. So obviously, you know, me being in real estate, and I know that this isn't like some sort of, unknown around town, that I know the biggest rumors around town when I first bought that was that it was going to be a subdivision, right? That Dan's into real estate. He's knocking the golf course down. It's going to be a subdivision, which is not at all what I wanted. I want to operate that golf course for the foreseeable future. Do I have my eyes set on developing it one day? Potentially, if it all works out, but I didn't buy that specifically only to develop, right? Mm-hmm. The main reason why I bought that golf course was because, one, it's around 150 acres. I sold a farm for the same price per acre as I bought that golf course for, with $500,000 of equipment, $33,000 of building, and probably about
$33,000 of building?
33,000 square feet of building.
Yeah.
33,000 square feet of building.
The actual building.
The actual building. All for around the same price per acre as I sold that farm. Mm-hmm. And I'm making about 20% cash on cash return on that property. Like,
I hope people are listening to the process here, right?
You see what I mean?
Multi-layer.
Exactly, like 100%. Yeah. So somewhere down the line, there's intrinsic value there, potentially. And the reason why I say that is, and people might be thinking like, oh, well, that's not in the next development area for, you know, the township of Amherstburg or McGregor, whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. But the property is so big, and you could put so many homes, dwellings, whatever, units on that property. It doesn't matter if the infrastructure exists around it. You install your own infrastructure on that site to be able to justify putting up 400, 450 homes, units, whatever.
There are homes around there too. Like plenty
there are homes around there. The only problem is that typically the way that infrastructure is built is that it's built according to demand, as well as how much can it supply, how much can it handle,
sewer capacities,
all the capacities that it could handle, whatever. Right now, if I were to develop that land, it wouldn't handle it, right? So that's why I'm saying you'd have to put in like your own water treatment plant. You'd have to put in, who knows what, like all of the infrastructure built to service that land. But if you're putting up 400, 450, homes on that, like you're pushing $500 million of a development. It's not going to fucking matter if you have to put in $10 million of infrastructure. It doesn't matter. Exactly. It's just part of the development. Yeah. And number two, when I was going through all that due diligence process, I had some heavy hitters contact me that wanted that property. I had heavy hitters from Toronto development. Like I'm talking like some of the biggest developers in Toronto wanted to buy that property after I already had it locked up. I had big developers locally here that wanted to buy that property.
I remember you kind of pulled the trigger on this around Christmas.
I did the deal like right around Christmas. So
everybody else was sleeping.
Exactly. So and speaking of Phoenix, I did the exact same fucking thing with the Phoenix deal around Christmas.
They're the best times, man.
It's the best times because nobody wants to fucking work around Christmas. Exactly.
They're in holiday mode.
Like I almost work harder around Christmas. So I had these bigwigs contacting me about like, hey, sell me off the property, sell me the contract. Let's go partnership. You can run the golf course, make all the money you want, but let's just like own it half, and then we can develop it. Like crazy shit, right? Like I was like, you know what? These guys know something. There's something here that they know. And in the event they don't, and it say for example, this land can never be developed, I'll still make 20%. And I own 150 acres. yes, it's an active business, but the way that we're starting to set this business up, there's a lot of pain and pain points in the business in the beginning, but the way that we're setting it up is very efficient now. This golf course won't run like a typical golf course, bloated employment, fucking dinosaur paper trails all over the place. It's going to run, we're going to have the most probably technically advanced admin system of any golf course probably in the area, easily. And because of that, we're going to be able to run it with a quarter or a half of the employees handling that kind of shit, and we're going to be profitable even more. So even in the event it can't be developed, I got 150 acres of real estate that's going to produce 20-25% return, cash on cash, year over year. So
it always goes down to you're buying for cash flow, you're buying for ROI, you're buying for, not projected cash flow. If and some hypothetical 20 years from now, it's like, no, it's got to make money in the next year or two.
Exactly.
Also, one of the best ways to buy a business I've heard and done research on is you find something that's just not run efficiently.
For sure, 100%.
The technology, they're still using 1980s technology.
Yeah.
They don't have an email.
It's brutal.
They don't have everybody's email addresses, for instance. They don't have a way to keep in touch with their customers, like et cetera, et cetera.
And that is one of the reasons why it was a dying business, is because it was so bloated. In order to, instead of fixing the issues, what they did was they threw more people at it. That was the issue at the golf course, right?
And if that's
not the answer.
Yeah, if this thing was running hyper efficiently, the price tag might have been close to double. Right?
Exactly. Yeah,
because the numbers would have been much higher.
Makes no sense, right? Yeah. So that was a second deal that I did over the last year. So I've only done in Windsor 2 deals. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy when you actually think of it.
I think what you're saying, what I'm seeing there, reading between the lines, is you're not buying anything turnkey or minor upgrades. It's got to be significant. Yeah. You're taking on something significant, and that's. Yeah. We always go back to this, and we touched on the reasons why. We always touch on the reasons why. Canada's tough, man. Canada's a tough environment. Yeah. For real estate, there are always ways to invest. We're not stupid. We're not ruling it out. We are still active in the local market, but man, the U.S. just has. Yeah. It's the land of opportunity 100%. For a reason. What would you call, if the U.S. is the land of opportunity, what would you call Canada?
The restricted land of opportunity. Restrictive.
The land of bureaucracy, maybe, like something like that. Like it's so different, man.
And because of that, it's restrictive.
Yeah.
It's restrictive, right?
So
there are a couple. I'll maybe touch on a couple other deals that I got going on. I got approval for a 60,000 square foot warehouse facility on that I'm going to attach, potentially to an existing industrial property that I own. Right, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like where Canadian Protein currently is, but it's moving. And then I have I've gotten approval for plans for one of my waterfront properties. And then the other waterfront property that I actually currently live in, we just got approval for plans. So warehousing, big. Huge, if I was, I mentioned this, if there was 2 things that I would be doing locally here, it would be number 1, warehousing, or like light industrial, something like that.
Now, touch on why. What do you see? What's the direction of the market right now? What's the direction of that space?
Because the economy's still moving, which is I guess not exactly indicative of a recession, right? So we're still seeing employment coming into finally with Windsor, we've got the battery plant coming. We've got Amazon. We've got a couple other pretty heavy hitter employers, employment coming in, and businesses coming into the local area. So you have that, and with that comes demand for space, warehousing, industrial, whatever, right?
Now, what I'm hearing is it's not just Windsor. It seems to be warehousing all across Ontario, at least.
Okay. I wouldn't know.
Okay. I just wondering if you had a beat on.
No, not really. Yeah. For me, I would be more inclined to buy housing outside of Windsor in Ontario. Not so much like the warehousing. I don't know enough about the, provincial warehousing demand and what areas. And don't get me wrong. If somebody was like, "Hey Dan, you want to buy this amazing deal on the 401 that has 100,000 square foot building?" Oh, that's a no brainer. But that doesn't come up, right? Like that, I'm not seeing that, right? So what do I have? I have the ability to put up and erect a 60,000 square foot building on land that I already own. I know that there's a massive battery plant coming in. That's how big is that? 4 million square feet?
4 million square feet.
4 million. It's fucking stupid. So I know that with all of that said, that's going to drive the local economy here to some extent. And then they're going to need space for other things. And it's a waterfall effect, right? So I know that with space comes big cash. And one of the reasons why I like warehousing and industrial is because it's triple net leases and they're cash flowing machines. Now, the only issue with those is, or the only con for those, is that you might wait 6 months to find a tenant. It's not as easy to find tenants, but it's way easier to manage. And the cash flow is usually significantly higher than residential. But it comes with its cons, like I said. So sometimes it kind of balances out depending on the market. Right now we're in a very, bullish market, I feel, in terms of like industrial property and commercial property around in Windsor. It's arguably as in demand with no supply as housing is in Windsor. So you pair those together, it's almost kind of like people are willing to pay whatever just to get some space. So
I bet you there weren't a lot of people building manufacturing facilities and warehouses over the past 20, 30 years in Windsor.
There wasn't, and that's another
thing. In fact,
too.
It's probably the opposite, tearing them down, if anything.
You don't have much demand. And I sold a warehouse not too long ago, maybe like a year or so ago, and within 1 year I made like $1.2 million on it.
1 year of ownership.
One year. And so that if there's any tales to be told about warehousing space in Windsor, if I could buy a property, like literally, I'm not even joking, this is what I bought that building for like $1 million. Literally, it wasn't even a year, it was 11 months. I sold it for $2.2 million.
Was there a tenant in there, or did you do anything?
It was
or
fucking
just
vacant too.
Oh, interesting.
So the tenant left. We were kind of having a little bit of I wouldn't say a hard time finding a tenant, but the building was actually fucking run down too. It wasn't like the nicest building, but it was on Highway 42. And what we ended up seeing was there was a lot of need for warehousing that people, again, we only had it up for rent for maybe like a month or two, right? So this is what I'm saying, right? It might take you 6 months to rent the property, right? Because, a lot of businesses have specific needs, right? So if a building doesn't fit a business's specific need, you might run into a situation where if that building isn't like very generic and can easily be built out for those needs, it might sit for a bit, right?
Wait for the right buyer.
Exactly. Or the right tenant, right? So we kept on getting requests to buy the building. So at one point I was just like, fuck it, sell it. And
who bought it?
Or
what business?
It's like a steel fab place, steel manufacturer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So who is also like really big out in Leamington. They have like 3 other areas or plants, right? So that was kind of a tale of hey, we need space in the city, and you even contacted me for space, like smaller industrial, right? So the plan is if I put up that 60,000 square feet, I'll probably break it up into 10 6,000 square foot units, just like my other building that I have, right? The other building that I have is 11 4,000 square foot units. So that's what I would do. The build out cost per unit isn't much more than if you were to do like a complete one building, but you can increase the rent based off of the smaller units, like significantly higher, right? So that would be the plan. And then obviously with the waterfront, I mean, you want to talk about real estate being in high demand because there's simply like not enough supply. Waterfront is even less supply, higher demand, with typically people with really deep pockets willing to kind of spend whatever the fuck they want to spend to get on the water. So that's why I'm especially bullish about water, warehousing space, and then also like some sort of intrinsic value, getting into smaller developments around town where, maybe a house sits on a double lot that you can sever, pop up an ADU or pop up a duplex next door and throw another ADU in the back of on each lot. Those are the things that I would be going after in the city.